TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It is Friday afternoon. This is In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb, and excuse me, it wasn't on the last couple of days. I didn't play. We didn't come on. What is today? Today's Friday, so I didn't come on Thursday. There's only like 5 games, and I didn't come on Wednesday because there's games during the day, but I couldn't come on during the day because Jeff already had the channel blocked out with other stuff, so it didn't work out. So today we're on. We're going to talk Friday baseball. We're going to talk about lots of different other things today too. Hey Jay Barry, happy Friday to you, my friend. And we're going to talk about some things today that sometimes you just get stuck some places and you don't know what to do. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that kind of stuff today. But welcome in. It's Friday. I am in Florida. I think people know that. I live near Tampa Bay. I live in Sarasota, Bradenton area. And Sunday morning, we're going to have a little storm here. So it's no big deal. We've been through lots of storms, but this will be a little one. It'll be more of a rain event, not really a wind event. So as long as power is still good and everything's up and running and all that stuff, it'll be just like normal. So we shouldn't have any issues with. I think it's getting ready to be called Debbie, this storm. So as long as Debbie does okay for us, we'll be okay. We won't have any issues, and we won't have to worry about too much stuff. Now, I've got 3 things that play-wise I wanted to go over, and then whatever anybody asks me questions on that we want to talk about. And it's 6:18, and one of the games is early. So I wanted to go over this game and make sure that we get it in. Usually by 30 minutes into the show, the people pile in. Right now, we only got a handful of people in here, so that's okay. We're going to give out the play anyway, and we'll talk about it. So this is a 6:40 play, guys, these are picks that some of these anyway are picks that I gave to my guys. So this one is Arizona today plays in Pittsburgh, and this is Brandon Pfaadt against Luis Ortiz, and it's Arizona against Pittsburgh. Arizona, I think at this moment in time, where is Arizona? Arizona is minus 125 at the Superbook, 125 at Circa, 127 at Bookmaker. So it's 125, 127, someplace like that. I think I paid minus 130 for Arizona, and I'm on Arizona. So I'm going to do this game, and then I'm going to get into something real quick. But this is really about one thing specifically, because you have Brandon Pfaadt, and when you pull up these guys' numbers and you start looking at pictures, and the way I do it is I pull them up, and it's a lot easier for me to pull them up under their team name, and I get all the pictures, and I can just get the information I need that way faster. But what it also gives me is an indication of how these guys do. So Brandon Pfaadt is the best pitcher that the Diamondbacks have right now. He's the best. He's got the best projected WAR. He's got the best metrics. Yeah, he's the best pitcher they have, and this team is knocking on the door for a playoff spot. I've been kind of waiting on this, and they're no more waiting. This team is they're pushing, and what's good about this particular spot is that they just played Pittsburgh out in Arizona, So they're familiar with what's going on and what's happening and how they kind of matched up. I didn't think that Pittsburgh looked dominant, that Arizona looked dominant out there. But what I think is that when you're the number one offense in baseball and you get a chance to bet them at a minus 130 price, you bet it. Especially when they're the number one pitcher for your team is pitching. So, I'm not telling you he's an ace. That's not what I said. I said he's the best pitcher that they have going for them. And I think that matches up well, right? Because you can't tell me Luis Ortiz is the best pitcher that Pittsburgh has right now, right? That's Paul Skeens. And, you could arguably throw in some other names in that bunch. Now, Luis Ortiz isn't somebody that is a bad pitcher, but at the same time, when you got the number one offense and you're facing a team that's not throwing their best pitcher at you, you got an advantage on offense. And then when you got your guy on the mound, you got an advantage on the mound. So I think, when my numbers came out, Webby odds on this game, Webby odds was Arizona's minus 134. And then, I paid 130. So I paid just a little bit of, EV positive. If you do it at 126 or so, you got 2.8% EV positive. So that's make 1,000 of those bets, you're going to win, right? Now, I say that, and Jay Barry, I'll tell you, I haven't been winning, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into, well, what do you do when you're not winning, right? So we're going to get to that after this segment. So typically you want to, in this particular case, what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at, I want advantages everywhere I can get them. So I've got Fad on the mound. His last time out, he threw a game score 44. His normal game for the whole season is a 55. So that means at 55, he's like an all-star level pitcher. And then for the last 7 games, he's a 57. So his 44 was his offset. That's his offset. And it was against these same Pittsburgh Pirates. So the expectation then is he's going to go out there today, make some adjustments, and he's going to throw a much better game than 44. He's going to throw, a 60, 65 type game. And if he throws a 65 type game and you have the number one offense in baseball, you got to win it. I mean, that's just kind of how baseball works, right? The other gentleman, Ortiz, he's been good. He's a stretched out relief pitcher is what he is. He's got some pretty good stuff, but he's got a big, he doesn't have big strikeouts, but he's got average metrics right now. But he's been hard to hit. I mean, he's a batting average against of only 190. So that's way down there. But I tell you that, and his whip rate's at 0.93, really, really good. Top 25% of baseball. But you know how good Brandon Fad's been? His is at 0.81, right? So it's just as hard to get on base for them. So if you have 2 pitchers that are very similar, and I'm telling you Brandon's better, but if you have 2 pitchers that are a little similar, then the differentiation has to come in the bullpen and it has to come in the offense. And the offense is 9 innings long. So when you flip this game over and you start looking at offense and you go, oh my goodness, the Arizona Diamondbacks are scoring 8 runs a game. 8 runs a game. They are ranked number 1 in offensive WAR and number 3 in isolated power. And remember that all these offenses, that's what they're trying to do, right? I mean, they're trying to get that crooked number. They're trying to do the stuff that generates multiple runs. And sometimes that really hurts a team. I lost the game today already. That was the Cubs and the Cardinals, and I'm on the Cardinals in the first 5 innings, right? I wanted to go after Assad today, so I did. I went after him. And, we get guys on base. They get thrown out stealing the bases. And it's not even so much that as much as when the damage needs to get done and you got guys on base, That's why I like to watch these games through my phone or through a computer where I can see where the pitches are and what they're swinging at and what they hit. Because Nolan Arenado came up twice with runners in scoring position. Once he came out and the bases were loaded, and Asada just walked in a guy, and this was an important spot in the game. If he gets a base hit, now the game becomes, instead of 5-1, it's 5-3, and you got guys in scoring position again for the next guy. So you can do a lot. Well, he gets it to full count. Now remember, he just walked in a guy. So he didn't get the full count. He got ball 1, ball 2. He swings at the third pitch and hits the third pitch and makes an out. But it's not so much that happened. It's what he hit. The pitch was 5 inches outside. 5 inches. And if he hasn't been throwing strikes, all hitters will tell you that what you're looking for in the batter's box. Oh, hey, that's what our thing's called, in the batter's box. But when you're a batter, you're looking to isolate a pitch in a certain area, and it's not 5 inches off the plate. It doesn't matter what kind of pitch it is. It doesn't have to be a fastball. It can be a slider or a curveball, whatever you think the guy can throw a strike with. But it has to be in a certain spot on the plate, or you don't swing. Because you are making that pitcher throw a hitter's pitch, not a pitcher's pitch, and Nolan Arenado jumps out and makes an out. Well, earlier in the game, when Goldschmidt was on second base, he did the same thing. But that one, it was ball 4 he swung at and made an out. So part of having certain skill sets when you're doing these games and breaking them down in detail, and you're trying to take advantage of what a pitcher does wrong, those are mistakes. And I shouldn't say that. Those are mistakes by the hitter that helps the pitcher. And that happens a lot. If you watch a game, it happens a lot. And these guys get up to bat and they're so jumpy about trying to drive in runs that this kind of stuff happens. But it shouldn't happen with a guy like Nolan Arenado, who's been in the league for 10 years. These guys, they know better. Plus, he's an RBI guy. If he wasn't an RBI guy, I'd tell you, well, he's not familiar with the spot, and it's in over his position or whatever. But it's very frustrating on my end because I handicap to that. Right? I handicap to the idea that I want to attack a pitcher's weakness because my hitters are going to do what they're supposed to do. And when they don't go do what they're supposed to do and they let the pitcher off the hook, that puts me in a bad spot. So anyway, point being is that you can make plays and you can look at different things, but you're not in control after that. So we'll get into sort of this slumpy thing in a second, but the reality becomes is wash it off, right? Because you're not in control of that. You made the bet. You were convicted in your position. You went to the window. You said, here's my however much money you gave the guy, and said, I'm going to win this damn bet, right? Because I'm going to come to the window and pick up my money. That's why you did what you did. We talked about the other day, kind of got sidetracked on the show for a minute, but one of the things that I want to make sure that you got to get, and this is a life thing too, you got to have a purpose for everything you do. Sure, you can go screw around and do whatever, but do you know how many people that are super successful that just go blow, time? There aren't very many people that do that, guys. And if you're out blowing time and you're doing whatever and not focused on achieving a goal or achieving your purpose for what you're doing, it's wasteful, number one. But number two, you're never going to get to where you need to go because you're not committed enough, right? So part of the frustration level that I feel when stuff like this happens is, man, but I've done this long enough that it doesn't bother me. I can't let it bother me, no matter how bad I feel for the people that are, and I do. I feel bad if somebody says, I'm going to go bet what this guy bet because he wins, and then I didn't win. And then it happens for a couple of days. I look, it's bad. I feel bad, but at the same time that I feel bad, I to do this, you have to have an attitude that says, you know what? That was my opinion. I stand by my opinion. I'm going to make another one. And then go to the window. That's how it works. Because if you let that stuff bother you, the reality is going to be it's going to impact what you're doing today, right? So the reason I wanted to play this Arizona game, though, is because they're scoring 8.2 runs a game. They've scored 49 runs in the last 7 days. They're number one in offense, number 3 in isolated power. They're 75% better than an average offense. And there's 9 guys in the lineup, right? They got 7 guys that are over 1 offensive WAR, and only one guy is pulling against that. So they have a lot of positives happening at the plate. So we talked about that with Oakland the other day. We said bet Oakland until they lose. Just bet them, because you have a small window. When these teams are hot like this and they're scoring runs where they're getting 8 runs a game, you got to ride it till it's gone. So that's what this play is about. And this is all about Brandon Pfaadt being the best pitcher that they have. And you've got this offense going against the Pittsburgh offense that's 24th in baseball and 25th in isolated power. And they are minus 12%. And, anytime you see an odd thing, I have a little where it says player success chart, right? So I have a thing that tells me how many guys are batting that's over 1 WAR, and then how many guys are over 2 WAR, but they're listed with their thing. So I can see all these players by name. And that helps you with understanding how things stack up lineup wise and in a batting order wise. So like for the Diamondbacks, you have Corbin Carroll and Marte. Those are the 2 guys at the top of the order. And then you have Gurriel, who's in the middle of the order, with Suarez, who's in the middle of the order, with Peterson, who's in the middle of the order. And then you have McCarthy, who's kind of right in that kind of almost tail end of the order. I mean, like the whole order. Well, the Pirates, they have Joey Bart. I think that's his name. Joey Bart, the catcher, that only plays every once in a while. He's the only guy that's over 2 WAR. So he might not even play. I didn't look at the lineup, but he might not even play. And not only that, when you have a guy that's not the normal guy that carries the load, he might have peaked and is going to drop. So I like the idea here too that when you start to think about where they are offensively, it's a mismatch. It's just a total mismatch. And then pitching wise, you got the best pitcher for the Diamondbacks. The only thing that I think, and let me look at it real quick. They've made some changes in Arizona, right? The trade deadline brought in some relief guys. So then they needed them because their relief help was bad. Over the last 14 days, they ranked 11th, and Pittsburgh ranked 17th. So even the bullpen wise, you got an edge. So I like the play. I played it. I gave it out today. So that's play number 1 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we get and kind of getting them right before kickoff here is our first pitch. You've got a little bit of a break because you can get them at 125. I had to pay 130 or 127 or whatever that number was. So you're getting them a little bit on sale. So let's talk about the next game goes at 8:00. So it gives me a second to interject some stuff here. So some quote learning material, right? So I'm going to talk a little football today too, by the way. So I wanted to talk a little bit about when you're betting, just like what you see in baseball. It's a great example of how things work. You have a mean, right? So you drive up and you establish this is kind of what you are. you're going to win X number of units every week. That's kind of how it works. But some weeks you win more and some weeks you win less. Well, there's times when you don't win at all. And no matter how good you are, it doesn't matter. Everybody goes through it, and it just is what it is. So there's a lot of different angles, a lot of different approaches, and a lot of different ways to handle certain things. So this comes down to a couple of things, because it can vary based off of who you are and what you're doing. So first of all, you got to kind of understand what your bankroll looks like and how much of your bankroll have you been putting to risk. Because, if you're losing all your bankroll and it's going away, that's okay too if it's replenishable. It's not okay if it's not replenishable. If it's not replenishable that easy, like I have accounts offshore that aren't really fun to try to re-put money in, because they don't take credit cards, and you got to figure out how to get the money over there and all that stuff, because really you're not supposed to be doing it. So it's not like, going to the Hard Rock here that's legal, because I can just go there, or the local guy, and just bet with the local guy. But, I like to have certain, I got lots of outs, right? So anyway, point being is that those accounts, I try to treat like a poker tournament, meaning that if you're in a poker tournament and you have chips, you don't get any more chips. That's all you get. And you can keep playing poker until you don't have any more chips. So your edge of advantage is how many chips you got. So if there's another guy over to your right or to your left, and he doesn't have as many chips as you do, you can put him all in. And if he goes and says, I don't want to risk my chips, then you win, no matter what kind of hand you have in your hand. So, hey, Wagon Sports, thanks. That's a great show. Love the knowledge and game breakdowns. I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate you guys all being here. So that's an example of when you have, an opportunity to use your chips to the advantage. But you have to gain your chips to get up there. But when they start to diminish, you have to defend them with everything you got. So you don't play as much. So I don't bet that way. But ideally, that's kind of what you really want to do. It's not so much that you want to, so let's say it the right way. So if you're playing poker and you would normally lead with, say, I don't know, let's say you lead with King Jack, right? It's not necessarily a strong hand, but you're going to lead with it. But you're starting to run out of chips, and the guys down here know you're running out of chips. Are you going to go all in with that hand or fold? If you're not going to go all in, then you shouldn't be in the pot to begin with. You should only be in pots that you got whatever pairs you got, whether it's pocket eights or tens or whatever, or ace king or ace queen, whatever. That's you're going to be very limited to your spots, but you're going to play them big, right? Because you want to get your chips back and hope somebody jumps in there with you to drive in the chips. Sports gambling is no different. So, but it all depends on what availability do you have to getting those chips. Because if you're playing poker and you're just in sitting at a, I don't know, $1, $2 table, $5, $10 table, whatever you're at, and you can buy in anytime you want and get chips anytime you want, then it doesn't matter. You play like you're unlimited amount of chips. So the beauty of that approach is that when you're out of chips, you just buy more. Well, when you're out of your bankroll in terms of gambling, you just put more in, because here's kind of the theory behind that, right? Your run's going to go for X number of time. You don't know how long it's going to go, but it'll change. The more you lose, this is going to sound really stupid. The more you lose, the faster you'll win. That means, like, you're sitting here at the poker table before, we just said you're hoarding your chips and you're not playing until you get a premium hand. You put a premium hand in, you can still lose. Well, here we're going, if I lose, I lose. If I lose, I lose. If I lose, I lose. But I'm not making losing bets. I'm making winning bets. Remember, we're making the best bet we can possibly make to start with. And if it loses, it's out of my control, because it's going to happen. You're going to have these little runs. And I feel bad because I think there's a couple guys that have been watching the show, and I was doing really good on the show, and they decided, hey, look, let me jump on board, and they jump on board. And, like this week through my thing, I've had like 3 or 4 losing days. So it's not been good. So I feel bad because that's not a representation of kind of how things have gone, but it is what it is. I can't change it. So what I do is I try to bet my way out of it. If you go back and look at how many client plays I give out, it's usually 2 or 3. Well, over this time, I've been giving out 4. I've been beefing it up. Like, if I'm going to lose, then I'm going to lose and get these losses out of the way, because the faster I get them out of the way, I'm going to start hitting again. It's kind of my theory behind all of that. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at it, and a lot of different things you can do. So your risk averseness creates a little bit of these problems too, right? Because if you're running bad on chips and you're running bad on plays, you might not play a play that you think is kind of marginal. Be like, I need a better play, right? But you would have normally bet it if you were winning. I don't think you should do. I think the best way to do it is to do what batters do. What a professional hitter does when they're in a slump at the plate. They can go back and watch as much videos as they can. They work with different things and they do stuff just to make sure technique is right. But ideally, they want to try to do one thing to avoid, and that's press. And that's the same thing with gambling, and it's the same thing with anything else. When you put the pressure on yourself to press to win, that's when your mind works against you. So it's better to just blow it off. And I know that sounds really stupid, but you got to blow it off and shake it off and scrub it off your body. Pretend like it's not happening at all. Pretend like you're winning, for God's sakes. Because your mindset has to be right when you make your selections. The best time to make a sale, if you're a salesperson, the very best time to make a sale is after you just made one. Because you just completed the sale, you're in euphoria and you're having the ethers all right there, and you're all just jazzed up. Hey, Marty Lowe, how you doing, brother? You're all jazzed up, right? Because you did all this stuff. You couldn't be in any better frame of mind to make another sale. It's the same way with betting. If you want to make a bet, like I plan out my bets, but if you want to make a bet and you just made a bet that won, right? The best time to make another one is after you're just all juiced up, right? Because you've got a great feeling, you've got such power in your body about positivity that nothing negative is in your head. When nothing negative is in your head, all you see is clear. You don't see anything that's foggy and confusing to you. You make a great selection, and a lot of times you're going to win. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on how slumping works, and kind of my theories on trying to bet around it and get around it and get through it. There's no easy way to do it. You just bet yourself out of it and stay in the game. If that's what you have to do, but stay playing. Don't ever give up, ever. Just keep going. Stuff happens. Things can change pretty quick. You can get lucky on certain things. Get unlucky on things too. But that changes. All that stuff is cyclical. But you don't know what timing of it is, right? I always say, well, it's not my job to figure out when these teams are going to break their streak. I don't know when I'm going to break a streak when I'm losing, or when I'm winning, or whatever. It's one of these things where I'm on the other side. If I'm winning, and I might be like 10-2 or something. I don't want to know I'm 10-2, because when I go and say I'm 10-2 and I put it on Twitter or something, I'm 10-2, then I go lose. I don't. So I have this thing about broadcasting that. If somebody else wants to do it for me, that's even better, because then they're tracking it. I don't have to worry about it. And I just keep my head straight, right? So it is what it is. So anyway, so that's my thing about slumps and all of that stuff. we're getting some traffic now. So the first game's already started, but that bet was on Arizona today. I'm gonna do one other note because it could come up from yesterday's football game. So I do football too. So this show's gonna at some point kind of morph into football as it gets closer to and back and forth. It'll be a little bit of both, but we played. There was the preseason game yesterday, and there was a lot of bets on two sides to this thing, right? So there were some people that had the game was at I think 30 was the points at the beginning, and then got bet up to 32 and a half, and it was 34. Just wait for the game to end, and then it pours down rain, and they call the game, and they cancel all the bets. So you get your money back, right? So that's a bad beat. So in your head, it's like, God, I'm winning. I just need to collect my money. The other side of that is the people that had bet on, because a lot of people had bet on the Texans. And the Texans took the lead, and then they were behind, and the Texans had to cover, and the Texans didn't cover. They were behind, but if you bet on the Texans, you got your money back, right? So there's a lot of different things that are involved in sports betting. That there's a couple of things that are non-negotiables. You need to know the rules at the house that you're betting at. And if you don't like the rules at the house, you got to be careful because some of these rules aren't very good. They're not very better friendly. Baseball has some very peculiar rules for, like if a game goes 5 innings, it's an official game in the score list, right? Not necessarily for a sports book. It's got to go like 7 innings, or they don't pay. They give you your money back. So you got to watch what the rules are. So I wanted to be kind of make sure that you understand that, every sports book's a little bit different, and the rules are a little bit different. Sometimes things don't do. Says Arizona 2 runs, top of the first, and no one out. Look at us go, man! Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Good heads up call there. And welcome in, Brian. I appreciate it. So, as we're doing these things, right, you got to know the rules and where to go. And I'm not telling you not to bet at a place, but shop at the places. And maybe you bet less at one place and more at another because of the rules. I will tell you, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but DraftKings just put out a thing that starting January 1st of this year, they're going to put a surcharge on winning bets. So that means that when you win, they're going to take a little tiny piece of that. It's not very big, but it's a little tiny piece because of what they're being charged on the back end from the states. There's no reason for it, guys. I mean, my opinion is I don't get to play at DraftKings. I just because I'm in Florida. So if I had a friend or somebody that I could put an account and they would run the account for me somewhere else, I could probably bet there. But the issue becomes, don't bet at places that you don't need to bet at. There's plenty of places to bet at. So, and be careful of what you're watching and what you're looking at because sportsbook rules, they're important. And the last thing I wanted to say before I get into other stuff is it's okay to pass on a day. So yesterday came out, there's only 5 games. And, I told my guys, I'm like, look, if Baltimore comes out and I knew who was going to pitch. They just didn't have it listed. And Trevor Rogers was going to pitch. I knew he was going to pitch all day. And I had my number at a certain number. But from what I saw, I thought, well, there's a chance he might be an underdog. And if I can get Baltimore as an underdog, I'm going to play him. Well, he didn't come out as an underdog, and it's more of a pick 'em game. And then I think it might have ended getting to be where he might have been 100 or something like that, minus 110 plus 100. I didn't follow it too close because when the line came out, I was like, I'm not interested. I wanted Baltimore plus money, and I wasn't getting it. So I didn't play it. And of course, they go out and they lay an egg. It was 10-3. So I passed on that game. It was a good spot. On Twitter yesterday, I posted a thing in reference to Shota Imanaga. And it's a teaching from David Malinsky that says the first time, and it's important to understand what that means. It's not the first time for a guy that's going to be seen through these things 3 or 4 times, right? It's Shota Imanaga. He's new to the league. He's a veteran pitcher, but he pitched in Japan. Wow, 4-0, no one out, 3-run homer and a triple. Look at us go. Man, look at us go. I need an Arizona Diamondbacks hat. So what we run into is Shota pitched against the Cardinals the first game and did great. But he had only been seen by these teams once. Well, this is the second time through for some of these teams. And he's only done it one other time, the Mets. The Mets had seen him twice. So the first time the Mets saw him, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs, just like what he's been doing to everybody. Now we're talking Mets. The second time he pitched 3 innings, gave up 11 hits and 10 runs, got smashed. All right, so be careful with the second time that somebody's. It's like Paul Skeens and some of these guys that come up. The second time through is way more dangerous than the first time because they've seen you. Once they've seen you, then there's a track record, there's a history. They can hear it, they can see it, they know the movement, they've seen it. So they can game plan against it a lot differently. They can attack you as opposed to react to you. And that's a big difference. So remember that when you're looking at certain things, and that was a perfect example. And what happened yesterday? Shota Imanaga gives up, I think, 3 or 4 runs. And it's like, I think it was 4-2. And then all of a sudden, I think what happened was St. Louis blew it in the 9th inning. They couldn't cover, or they couldn't close it out, and they got beat 5-4. So, it was a good thing. But the whole point of this topic or conversation is it's okay to pass. And I passed yesterday. I could have cost myself more bets. So when you're not comfortable with going to the window with conviction, don't do it. Don't play. Because if you play, you're expecting one thing. You expect to win and win only, and that's it. That's it. That's all you're expecting to do. Because if you lose, man, look, I got to tell you this the right way. It's not good to be a sore loser. You got to hate losing, but you're going to lose. You don't make bets to lose. You make bets to win. But you're going to lose those bets. And if you let your mental picture change to the degree in which you're not the same bettor and gambler anymore, you might as well stop because you have to keep an even keel. And that's sort of the same thing when you're on a run. But when you're on a run, let that ether kind of get in there and just get to a point where you're just kind of floating and you're seeing things so clear in those spots. And when you're losing, it could be that you're not seeing things quite as clear. So anyway, point being is that it's okay to pass on days. Yesterday I did, and it worked out. Now I will say that I passed on a football bet that I would have won. I handicapped the game yesterday, and I know, how do you handicap a preseason football game? Well, the way I looked at that football game was you got to know quarterback rotations. And where were the edges? Well, the edges are in the depth of Houston's wide receivers. They are a talented wide receiver group. The starters weren't going to play, but that's okay. They got guys that can still play behind that, and they had quarterbacks that are going to be able to throw the ball to them. So I wanted to play against Chicago in the first half, because Chicago was also a team that has a new offensive coordinator. I thought they'd be very vanilla. I didn't think they'd do a whole lot. They're going to have their second team quarterback out there, and I didn't think they were going to show nothing. And really, that's the way the first half was. I think they scored a touchdown with like 3 minutes to go into the halftime or whatever, just to make it reasonably close. But they were behind, and I would have won that game because I would have played the money line on that, and but I didn't play it because I knew there was weather, so I didn't know where it was going to come. So again, edge wasn't strong enough, didn't play. I'm okay with it. So I passed on that one that I would have won, and theoretically there was opportunities there where I would like the Baltimore, and they got killed. And then I talked about not betting on Shota, which means you probably bet the other side. And if you bet the other side, you're sitting there pretty in the 9th inning and lost. So a lot of things can happen. So don't be afraid to pass on a day. All right. So all that goofiness out of the way for right now. Hopefully those stories help people with kind of how to get through some tougher times. But so we talked about Arizona's game. My guys a lot of times will get plays, but they don't hear me break stuff down. I used to type them out, but man, it takes me so long to type that stuff out. It's just way faster to talk about them. So this one, I'm not sure I understand a whole lot about where it's at and what's going on with it in terms of the numbers. So let me go get the game number here. This is 969, 970, 805, Boston Red Sox, Texas Rangers, okay? And this is Crawford against Urania. And again, when I pull up these guys and I start looking at these pictures, right? Crawford is at the top of the list other than Houck. So he's like the next guy down for the Red Sox. And he had a string of 67, 77, 77 in terms of game score. He was really good. And then he goes, I got a game score 9 and then a game score 23. Well, those are the big offsets. So I'm expecting a big day from Crawford. Jay Berry says, a lot of great info on the website with the package. Long-term game will come out in the head. Thank you, Jay Berry. I appreciate that. It's always good to have a vote of confidence sometimes, it's appreciated. Trust me. It's better than getting beat up on all the time. But that being said, right, I don't do this to lose. I do this to win. I do this to help people. Hopefully people are doing this Arizona thing because it sounds like, according to Brian, we're doing really good. So I'm happy with that. And then when you're looking at this other game, this is Boston against Urania. I'm on Boston, and let me get to the point where I have my numbers here. There we go. Boston. My numbers on this game is Boston minus 139. Boston minus 139. The number that I think I paid on this game is like Boston minus. Where's my little? There they are. I got Boston minus 114. So I'm getting them on sale as far as I'm concerned. I think when I pulled it up here just a little while ago, you can get them at plus 100 as a pick 'em. So, wait a little longer and I could have got them at an even better number. But the idea with this bet is that, number one, I think Crawford's going to pitch well. I think Crawford, truthfully, if I can pull up his numbers, get him over here. Crawford has average metrics. And with the way he's been getting hit, he probably shouldn't have average metrics. They should be way above. But here's the issue with Crawford. He's actually got a WPA that's positive, 0.34 positive, which is almost top 25%. So what it means is he's not making very many mistakes. He's making more pitches than he's not. His issue is he can't keep the ball in the yard. Like the Yankees hit 5 home runs off of him when the played him the last time. And his home run rate's 2.73. That's not very good. That's terrible. But the Texas Rangers, they're not hitting home runs. The Texas Rangers aren't hitting anything. So, it's hard to back that team because they should be hitting and they just don't. But I like this matchup because I think Crawford, coming off of those games, is going to have a good game. He's not walking anybody, so he's not putting guys on base. His walk rate's really low, and his batting average against is 221, so it's better than league average. and his whip rate is .88. So he's not been real easy to get on base with. He's just been giving up, home run after home run. So when I looked at Urania hasn't made a start since June the 5th. And when he did start, he was an average pitcher. His metrics as a relief pitcher over the last 30 days is the worst 25% in baseball. He's got a 5.41 xFIP, 5.35 SIERA, 5.69 FIP number. So if you just look at, say, SIERA, for example, and go, Crawford's a 4 and he's a 5.35, you got almost 1.5 run advantage that way, right from the get-go. And just looking at that, and then you got to kind of figure out, well, can he get it back in there anyway? Well, Urania's strikeout rate is 6.39, worst 25% in baseball. That means that Boston's going to put the ball in play. Secondly, Urania walks 5.6 guys per 9 innings. 5. He's going to put guys on base, and if you can give up the hits, as he's in his batting average against is 294, his whip rate's 182, all worst 25% in baseball. So I think you're going to have a spot here where Boston can be successful. What I saw with Urania is earlier when he, Urania's kind of been around the block. He's an average kind of journeyman pitcher, and he was doing well because his WPA was good. So what does that mean? That means he was making a lot of pitcher's pitches, even though his metrics show that he should be getting hit. Well, it's kind of caught up to him now. His WPA has just gone negative, so he's making more mistakes now than he has been in the past, and I think the results are showing. So then I looked at it and I go, all right, well, situationally, where is he at? Well, you've got a spot where I think that you go and say he's not getting these outs because he doesn't put the ball where he's not controlling the opponent's offense. And then you go, where's the offense at? Well, the offense for Boston, they're number 3 in baseball. Number 3. And they're number 4 in isolated power. They're 51% better than an average offense. So can they take advantage of this Texas pitcher? I think they can, right? And then when I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute now. We just had a game where we talked about Arizona having 7 guys in the lineup that are over 1 WAR. Well, Boston has 8. 8. So just about everybody in the whole lineup's hitting. I mean, you can go right down the line. They got 1, 2. They only got 4 guys, though, over 2 WAR. But they got a bunch of other guys in there that's hitting. Only 1 guy is pulling away from them. And when you looked at Texas is 28th in offense right now, and they're 29th in isolated power. And remember, what did we say was Crawford's problem? It's not that he's not putting the ball in the right spots, because most of the time he does, and most of the time he's hard to get on base with. He's just giving up the home runs. Isolated power, they're 29th out of 30 teams, the Texas Rangers. So I'm not really afraid of what they're going to be able to do to Crawford. I'm way more focused on how much damage can we do to Urania, right? So now I'm looking at it and I'm going, if I waited, a couple hours, I could have got him at a plus 100 price. I think it should be Boston as the favorite here. And here's kind of the other issue. Boston is really trying to make the playoffs. Texas really isn't. I mean, I get it. Texas could get there if they can get their pitchers back, and if this. But Boston's right there. They're knocking on the door. They got to stay hot. They made a couple deals. I think if they can get it going, they have stuff to play for. I think Texas is kind of going through the motions. I think Urania is a solid understanding that they're kind of going through the motions. So I'm telling you that I think that the Boston Red Sox are play number 2, and I think that that's the reasons why you want to bet on them. I think it's a good spot for them, and we kind of go from there. Now, I wanted to hit. I don't want to mix this up, so maybe I should do the last baseball play, and then I wanted to cover football for a minute. And then we'll be done. So the last baseball play is pretty simple. This is the Minnesota Twins going against the White Sox. This is a run line advantage play where we're taking Joe Ryan. And I'm going to be honest, I bet Joe Ryan 3 or 4 times, and every time I bet Joe Ryan so far this year, it hasn't been good for me. But data statistically wise, I'm showing that he's a starting pitcher that is top 25% in all his metrics. He strikes out 11 batters per 9 innings, top 25%. Balls aren't going to be put in play against him. He doesn't walk people. He gives up average home runs, so he doesn't give up the home run rate. His hard hit rate's only 19%. So, not a lot of damaging blows are going to hit against him. So I find it hard to believe that the White Sox are going to go out and do a whole bunch of damage. Now, I say that and watch them go score 7 runs. But the point is that the matchup is good here. Minnesota's played the White Sox several times this year already, and they destroyed them. Actually, I can probably tell you what that looks like if I can get to this real fast. I'm usually pretty good about finding this information really fast. If I can find the White Sox game, I can tell you what they got. Here we go. So they've played each other so far this year 10 times. The White Sox are 9-1 against. The Twins are 9-1 against the White Sox, there's only been 2 games in that spot where they didn't cover 1.5. And they've scored 7, 6, 6, 10, 8. Like, they score a ton of runs against the White Sox because the White Sox, they're the White Sox. So my opinion on this is that the pitcher, Davis, what's his name? Davis what? Davis Martin, is not the greatest pitcher in the world. He's made 3 starts, I think, or was it 2? Pull up my numbers. There you go. He's only made two innings in the last 30 days, but he has started, and he's made like 2 starts, and he had 1 good start and 1 bad start. And what caught my attention of him is that when you grade out his stuff, he pitches down. So he's got a 104 pitcher plus, which grades his movement and all that. But the way he uses it, he's a grade as a 98. He pitches down. So, like, for example, Joe Ryan is a 101 on stuff, but he pitcher plus is a 103. He's above average, one of the better pitchers in baseball because he pitches up to getting the outs and using his arsenal correctly. Like Scooble, right? Scooble pitches today. His stuff is only a 100. It's average. It's a little bit above average. But his pitching plus number is 107. It's one of the best in baseball. It's not the best, but it's one of the best. He's pitching way up. That's a big jump. So you can see like what a guy does with what his pitching abilities are. And I think that's a big deal, right? So see how that kind of works out. But the big deal here is we're going to have Joe Ryan on the mound. Joe Ryan should be able to hold the White Sox to minimum number of runs. And the White Sox pitchers aren't going to be able to control the Twins' bats. The Twins, offensively right now, are scoring about 4.5 runs a game, which is average. But they have 3 guys that are over the WAR number, and Wallner and Buxton are driving the bus for that team. And I think that they're going to be able to capitalize in a sense that the pitcher is not that great for them. And then, the White Sox have had a time, and it's been quite a while just recently, where their bullpen was doing pretty good, but it's not now. Right now, they're 27th. They've thrown 48 innings and given up 57 hits. And in those, 9 of those are homers from the bullpen. So say you get this game to be reasonably close, and then here comes the bullpen, and all of a sudden this game gets out of control. And that's what I think happens here. My score predictor, I think this was the biggest mismatch score predictor today. What's going on here? Why did that? Oh, there we go. Score predictor, Minnesota. It has Minnesota scoring 10 runs. It's 10 to 4.5. That's going to cover the run line. So I liked that play, and that's kind of where I went with that one. So baseball wise, that was what I did today. I did those 3 plays. Arizona, Boston, Minnesota. So let's knock those games out. Now, football wise, I wanted to bring up 2 things. There's a game that's week 1 of college football, and it's a perfect spot I want to talk about. This is Miami, Florida, at Florida University. The number's 2.5. So if you watch the number, every time it gets to 3, it gets bought and it gets knocked back down every time. So what does that tell you? You should pay attention to that. Not if it was not if it was at 5 and went to 5.5 and it got back down to 5. But 3 is a key number. You know, we haven't really gone into football yet about key numbers and all that stuff. I'm assuming everybody knows that 3 is a key number. But 3 is a key number because that's one of the most common spread differentials in football. So it's a key number. So betting wise, a lot of lines are set for 3s and 7s and 4s and 6s and 1s, right? So anyway, when a number is at 2.5 and the sports book says, let me see what happens when I put it at 3. So they put it to 3. Maybe they're just doing a test. You know, we're still several weeks away. Maybe let me put a test out here and see what happens when I put this at 3. So they put it at 3. Well, they get action at 3, and everybody's taking the 3 points. So like, oh no, I got to put it back to 2.5, and then it stops. So you want to look for occasions that when the line's 2.5 and it goes to 3, but it gets bet through the 3 and it's at 3.5, and maybe it goes to 4, because there's 2 things going on in both of these scenarios. The first scenario is that sharp guys that are playing numbers, they're not necessarily handicapping the game. They're just betting sharp dollars and sharp money, making good bets, sharp bets. So the sharp bettors are out there going, I can get a 3, I'm going to take it because I don't think it's going to get to 3.5 ever. So if that's the best number I'm ever going to get and I can get it, I'm going to buy it. So that's what they do. And then it goes down to 2 or 2.5, right? And then, you know, the week of the game or right before the kickoff and stuff, you know, a lot of your guys that are going to be fans of the sport or fans of a team, they're just going to go out there and do whatever they want to do, and you'll get the money moving around and doing stuff. But the number won't necessarily change unless the sportsbook needs to offset some possible loss, right? The risk management part of it. But the other side of that are bets where, say a game is at 6.5, and it went from 6.5 to 7, and then it went to 7.5, and now it's at 8, with no stopping. Maybe it goes to 8.5. Look, that's a steam play. They call that steam when it goes riding through numbers, and it's not slowing down. But I would also tell you that those are spots that you can follow. Why would you want to follow that play and not the other one? Well, the reason that you want to follow that play is because nobody cares what the key number was. So because the key number is is less insequential to the outcome of the game, the expectation is that they're going to cover that number. So keep an eye on spreads that go through a key number and don't stop, because there's a reason why they didn't get bought back down. There's a reason for it. And then on the other side of it, if there's a bet that hits a key number and won't stay there, there's a reason for that. You as a bettor, your job is to understand the reasons. everything happens for a reason, right? If you how do I say this? So there's guys that like to tell you that they know what's going on and where the market's shifting to and all that stuff. And they're so full of shit. I just I don't know. It drives me insane. Some people are pretty good at guessing, but so there's a company called RAS, right? RAS Sports. RAS Sports has a pretty good membership of people. I don't know how big it is anymore. They were losing there for a little while. And to get plays from them, it costs you, I don't know, I think it's like $1,400, maybe $2,000. It costs a lot of money. But the point being is they're supposed to win all the time, right? And so when they give out a release, guess what happens? They have to do it so orchestrated in such a way, because when they give out a release, if they were just to mail it to their people or do whatever, not everybody would get it at the number, because as that starts to change, the whole industry changes. Like on the spot, just like bam, they move numbers on a sports book within 20 seconds of their release. And I'm not kidding. There are other release groups that can do the very same thing because of the volume of those people that are in that group or whatever, and then they go make those bets. So when you're sitting there and you're thinking you know what's going on, and then all of a sudden you see all these numbers move, and there was no injury, there was no this, there was no that, you got to start thinking about, well, why did the number move? So when you're betting football, a key understanding is it's possible that a sports book would move something on air, meaning they're just testing something or they're trying to see what a market does or whatever. But there's generally some sort of reason why numbers are moving. It could be injuries, it could be weather, it could be, we just said, like a release from a group. It could be all kinds of different things, but you need to understand what the number moved, because you either need to know whether you're betting against that move or whether you're betting on the move, or whether you support it or whether you don't. Because when football comes around, you're going to have to know those things. So it says the laughable guy is Darren Notaro, aka Steve Steven. Yep, there you go. Yeah, I'm not talking about phonies. Like we're talking real things here. You can get involved in a lot of different things. You can see a lot, get exposed to a lot. And, some people think that's the way to do it. Some people think, well, I don't know nothing about this stuff, so I'll just pay the money to these people. Well, there's good and bad with that, right? It's just like if you paid me, like you pay me $100, right? You pay me $100, it goes for the whole year. So it's not like it's anything, but it's $100. So if I don't win you $100, it costs you $100. But on my side of the token, what I'm trying to do is at least give you $100 worth of value of learning and stuff if I don't win, right? But these guys are charging you, we'll just make math easy. We'll say it's $1,000. I know it's more than that, but we'll just say it's $1,000. And if they're charging you $1,000, yeah, I don't know how big of a bettor some of you guys are. I mean, there's some out there that are betting, a couple $100 a game. Some might be betting higher than that. Most aren't. Most are in the, I don't know how to say it this way, but they're most in the $20 to $50 range. That's mostly what a lot of people are betting. And if you paid somebody $1,000, how are you ever going to get your $1,000 back? What's the return on investment on that stuff? It's never going to get there, right? So just be careful of and I don't say be careful. Just it's a bounce, what I call a bounce back, where the number hits 3, bounce back, hits 3, bounce back. Pay attention and pay strong attention, because that's a sheer sign that number 3 is of such value that if you can get it, get it. Nobody's betting 2.5, or it would have went to 2. So don't be the ding dong and bet 2.5 to go to win, right? You want 3, and that's the number you want, or more. Now we'll get into some of the other stuff down the road, because This is where one of the things Jeff and I get into a little different way we think about stuff. Jeff likes to buy points. I will never buy points. I will never buy half point, never buy full points, never buy on or off points unless it's of significant value, and that's a mathematic equation that'll tell you that. So anyway, you don't do it that way. Dr. Bob's another one, but doesn't move like Raz. Yeah, see, there's Dr. Bob's has one. I know. What's the other guy's name? I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. I can see his picture in my head. That's what happens when you get old, man, and you get all this stuff going on in your head and all this stuff. You forget what's going on or what's happening. But anyway, there's a lot of them out there that I shouldn't say a lot. There's several, and several of them can move numbers, like move them just instantaneously. They'll move numbers, and it's funny. Like that game yesterday, there was a release from one group that brought the total down, and then Raz brought the total back up. So at some point there's value once a number gets below a certain thing, and then they go, oh yeah, let's go do that, right? So it's just interesting how some of that kind of stuff works. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys is about DVOA, and I don't know what you guys know about DVOA in terms of football. But basically DVOA is a statistical breakdown of a play-by-play analysis of football. So, I talk a lot about WPA in baseball, right? Every pitch has an outcome. Well, football does the same thing. EPA in football, you'll hear that term a lot. EPA is extra points added. So it's EPA is moving towards taking every play and then how much did it add point value, plus or minus, based off of whether it was third down and 6 and you got 5 yards and now you got a punt, or if it was second down and 3 and you got 5 yards, you got a first down. So you get graded for all that stuff, and it kind of grades it out and then give you EPA value. DVOA is kind of that structure, but it's more NFL related than college. And I use EPA for college, and I use DVOA for NFL. Wagon on Sports says, what are your thoughts on Billy Walters' story? The Smart Money book was pretty entertaining that Michael Connick wrote. Well, I'm going to be honest. I know Billy Walters by name. I know him by sight. I know his story. I know a little bit about Billy Walters' history. I don't know probably enough about the Smart Money book, because I never read the Smart Money book that Michael Connick wrote. So I don't know that per se. So unfortunately, I'm probably not a good answer for that question, because it's not in my subject matter to a certain degree. Billy Walter, he's one of these guys that supposedly is he's not a math guy per se, from what I understand, and so he's learned a lot of stuff, kind of has a good feel for a lot of stuff. It's like Roxy Roxborough, right? Some of these other guys that you've heard of, they've been around the block forever. They're feel kind of gamblers. Sure, they think they know the numbers and they can set numbers really well. They can analyze talent and they can do different things and come up with numbers and stuff that way. But I don't know that story, to be honest, and I'm sorry to disappoint. I don't know it. So it's hard for me to talk about it if I don't know it. But the reason I bring up DVOA just for a second is because in this book, one of the subject matters that you're going to see, I guess it's DVOA, right? So DVOA, but I wanted to bring up something, because I think a lot of you have heard a lot about a lot of these teams already, and starting to make and you're starting to make these judgments and understanding about what teams have structure and power and how they look and all of that stuff. So let me give you just a quick. I'm not going to read this whole thing because if I did, it would be stupid. So DVOA, right? So if one running back runs for 3 yards, another one running back runs for 3 yards, which one's better? That sounds like a stupid question, but it isn't. In fact, this is the question at the heart of nearly every analysis in this book. Several factors can differentiate a 1 yard run, all that stuff. It says football has one objective: to get into the end zone. 2 ways to achieve that: by gaining yards and achieving first downs. And DVOA is about grading, moving the ball forward or moving the ball backward, achieving first downs or achieving touchdowns, or whether you didn't, and you're grading your defense on those things. Very, very high level, not focused viewpoint I just shared. But I didn't want to read all this other stuff. So the point being is, I bring that up because when you look at a projection system that shows where these teams are DVOA related, one of the things that jumps out at me is, say, the NFC South. There's a lot of people that don't know what to do with the NFC South. And I would tell you that, they like Atlanta, right? Atlanta's the highest win total. So DVOA has Atlanta winning 7.6 games based on their numbers. They have a 30% chance to make the playoffs. The next team up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 8.7 wins. And then the next team up from that is the New Orleans Saints. How many people are betting New Orleans Saints to win the NFC South? The reason I'm bringing some of this stuff up is here's another one. Everybody thinks that the New England Patriots are going to be the absolute worst team in football. DVOA says they'll win 7 games. So when you start to think about it, you go, well, that puts them same place as the Vegas Raiders. They got the Chargers at 6.7 wins, so Chargers below that, Arizona below that, Denver below that, Chicago below that, Giants below that, Washington below that. So when we talked originally about get yourself opinions, viewpoints, and views that aren't the same as the status quo, you're going to do better. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Because if you can go out and say, you know what, these New Orleans Saints, nobody's watching them, nobody's paying attention to them, everybody's betting everybody else. A, I can maybe make a futures bet on them, but B, I'm going to win a lot of games because nobody's caught up to what they are capable of, and they're going to win a lot of games early, and we just knock the crap out of them. And then you go and say, well, there you go. That's kind of how it works. Or maybe you can win a lot of bets on New England. Not that they're going to win a lot of games, but maybe defensively and offensively they can keep games close enough that you can cover, especially early in the season, get a lot of spread covers. Another one that I thought was kind of interesting was those Chargers. Everybody thinks the Chargers are going to be up there battling with the Chiefs. Not if they win 6.7 games. So you take a nosedive on the Chargers and you start betting against them everywhere you can, and then you start making money. So because everybody else is reading all this other stuff that says Chargers are going to be this, the Patriots are going to be that, the Saints are going to be this, and now you got a differentiating opinion that puts you in a power position. And you're only in a power position because it's differential from everybody else. And as you're doing it, you can adjust things out and see how it goes and kind of formulate some opinions that way. So anyway, I wanted to give you some food for thought football wise. We haven't talked about football much, but we're going to break down football games here. We're going to talk about them, and trust me when I tell you, I'm not the guy that's going to come on here and go, where did I see this, by the way? I know. I saw it on Twitter. I didn't save it or go back to it or anything. But there's websites that do those SQDL things, and they go on there and they look for stuff, and they go, well, this pitcher, it was Carrasco today, right? Carrasco pitches today. And all these different starts he's ever made is 0-30 in this particular spot. So all you did was type in, I think it was something to the degree with he hasn't won in 3 games or something. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. But there was some kind of clarification, and then run the SQDL, and it comes back. He's 0-30. That's not good enough. You can't bet that. And you can do all of that with football and all of that with basketball because the database will go get the information for you. But that tells you nothing. It really does. It tells you nothing. It's better to, and I say this all the time, but it's better to understand a scenario that makes logical sense to why an outcome would be a certain way. And you can follow that. But it makes no sense unless, and I don't know, I'll just make this up. So what is today? Today's Friday. On every Friday that Carrasco pitches, and he's at home, maybe he has to go and get his toenails painted before he goes to pitch. And because he has to go get his toenails painted before he has to go pitch, he's uncomfortable. And because he's uncomfortable, he doesn't pitch well. Well, in theory, that's a logical reason why he would be uncomfortable and why he would pitch unwell. And if he does it every single Friday, well, it just so happens that he does it on that day. It's the day he gets his toenails done. Then, I can't believe I'm doing this with a straight face. So when he does that, right, you go and he goes out there on the mound and you sit there and you go, okay, well, logic says he's uncomfortable on this day because of this reason. Okay, well, that's a legitimate reason. I'd be uncomfortable too. So that might be something to follow. I know that sounds really retarded, but the truth is there's a valid logical reason why that's happening. You can find that, we talked about travel scenarios. You can find a lot of different spots where that stuff is legitimate information. But a lot of times you look at it and you go, it's just a matter of sequencing time things together. Guys, stop doing that, right? So don't let that stuff happen. All right, anyway, guys, that's it for tonight. We ended up getting 175 people on here. That's a great night. We'll be on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. Tomorrow we do at noon. Sunday we'll do at noon. As long as I have power and everything's good. I don't think there's going to be an issue. I mean, we do have. Listen, I've been through lots of hurricanes down here, and this isn't really a major storm. It's a rainmaker, but it's not like a major storm. It'll cause some damage, but nothing major. So, but power is obviously a concern. So as long as I have power, we'll be on Sunday, and nothing will be any different. So hopefully we win some money tonight. Hopefully we make some bets tonight, and we come back here and do it all again tomorrow. So guys, thank you so much. Again, you guys have been great. Please continue to do what we're doing, right? We're growing this channel. Things are getting better and better. If we can get, I don't know how they do this. If we can get the likes and the retweets and the subscriptions and the follows on Twitter and the follows on YouTubes and all that kind of stuff that those influencer people say that are really smooth at doing that. If you do those things, that really helps this channel. Not only does it help the channel, but it drives it to the point where we can get sponsorships and we can do all kinds of fun things with that. If you want to be a client and you want to be a member, just go to my website, mlb-day.com. There's also free information on there. I mean, I don't try to charge people anything, but I just have to. But there's stuff on there for free too. There's a lot of information there. And then, every day I put out stuff that's behind a paywall, but and if you want to become a member, it costs you $100. It's for a whole year. I mean, how can you beat that? So anyway, point being is I'm not trying to make money off of you guys. It just keeps things working. So if you do that, go to the website, mlb-day.com. Everything's appreciated, guys. Comments have been great. The interaction's been great. Much appreciated, guys. Have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow with hopefully some wins in the pocket.